doll collecting, love and addiction. I'm very fortunate today to have Demon with me, who is my very favorite filmer. Much better than using Pivo and the tripod. But I've been meaning to make a video ever since the arrival of... Oh, I'll take her out of the light. Jennifer Long. Great many very bad things have happened, and I have had some not very well understood struggles going on with myself. So in making these videos, I'm going to be talking to myself. So I will refer to you as you, because when I watch these videos, then it will be like my recorded self talking to my actual self. So that's going to be a little weird to do that right now because Demon is sitting here holding the camera, so it kind of feels like I'm talking to Demon. But I want to get used to doing that, to talking to myself, my recorded self, talking to my actual self. So the worst of the bad things that happened was that my father died. That was 2 years ago, maybe not even 2 years ago. I have lived in this house, his house, where he loved to be so much, for just over a year that I moved up here. And I've been here mostly without human company. I've got Boo and Nadia, and there was Dozer, and the cats, Aura, Mukam, and Berence et Midi. So I'm not alone. I have a much beloved animal company, but I always thought that if and when this day came, that I had a lot of time to myself and didn't need to work, that I would be a creative powerhouse. And I haven't even been able to draw very much. I mean, I try, and it is just vaguely upsetting. And I don't really feel very motivated to even draw, which is very strange because I have, had a sketchbook with me and drawn in my sketchbook pretty much every day my whole life. So, doll collecting, love, and addiction. That's sort of the point of this inaugural video with my brand spanking new camera, made even easier by the fact that Demon is helping me. So when my father died, I got a very, very beautiful doll that Christmas, and he died on December the 12th. So as you can imagine, that Christmas was extremely grim. That was the Christmas of 2022. And the doll had been bought for me by my daughter as a birthday present, but it was made by a wondrous doll artist named Beatrice Perini. And I've loved the work of Beatrice Perini the entire time that I've been collecting dolls. So when my daughter bought it for me for my birthday, I was really ecstatic, but it took a while for Beatrice to make the doll. And so the doll was ready for that Christmas. And my daughter told me that Beatrice had gotten a hold of her and that the doll was ready. And I don't know what my face looked like, but my daughter said, do you still want the doll? And at that time, with the grief being so immense, I didn't really even want to imagine ever being happy again. And I didn't want the doll just then. But then, the look on my daughter's face, and thinking about my father would definitely not have, he was not the kind of guy that would have, he was fun-loving. He was, in my writing, I call him the groovy butterfly lion. And that is what he was. He was a naturally happy person. He worked at it, but that's what he was. So Well, my daughter looked a little, I didn't want to hurt my daughter, and I did want the doll. I've always wanted a Beatrice Perini doll. She's beautiful. And I would have her for this video, except that she's going to get a video of her own because, oh my goodness, digression should be my middle name, but you do know, since you're talking to you. So, to get back to the point, not long after my father died, the Beatrice Perini doll came. Her name is Leonia Rose, and she's lovely. And she did make me happy, and I was very glad of that. But then, not too long after that, a doll collector friend of mine who lives in Chicago, named Philip Davis, had to be put into a nursing home because he was in the late stages of Parkinson's disease, and his collection, so he had a magnificent art doll collection, which is primarily also what I did collect, was art dolls to begin with, and antique dolls, but mostly art dolls. And his good friend and neighbor, I've already named him, but I won't name her in this. I don't even know if I'll make this video public, but just in case I do, I won't say her name. She knows who she is. Did her best, and is still doing her best, to do justice to his collection, but it was a real frightening scramble. Now, in the late stages of Parkinson's, there was quite a bit of dementia that set in as poor Phil deteriorated. So he in the nursing home, and he was one of the last things that he thought about with clarity was what was becoming of his dolls, and he believed them to be safe in a doll museum. And so it's turned out that that's almost become the case. His friend and my friend has been very careful in seeing what becomes of his treasures. But at the time, it was such chaos, and there was such worry about that his dolls might have come to terrible grief, and some of them did, or might have, because they just went to an estate sale, and who knows what happened to those ones. But they weren't the creme de la creme got saved. But that was sort of a blow to me because I'm an art doll collector, and I said, well, what's going to happen? Art dolls are not, they're quite a responsibility. These are one-of-a-kind works of art made by artists, and so you really, you have them in trust. And part of that trust is making sure that they end up in good hands once they're not in your hands anymore. And so all of a sudden, and not only that, all kinds of things happened. I didn't have an income anymore, and so couldn't really afford art dolls anymore. Was very concerned about the responsibility of it all, and I don't know. I was kind of thinking about giving up doll collecting altogether, but I really do love dolls. And then one thing led to another. Demon and I took a trip down to Chicago to, we brought back a bunch of dolls that his friend had put together they're art dolls, but they were all a little bit damaged. Nothing that I couldn't fix. So I took those, and some that weren't broken, that were just, would be in good hands with me. And, and we came back, and I thought, this is too expensive for me these days, and too much responsibility perhaps to burden my daughter with after I've died, because I'm not a young woman anymore. Got to think of these sorts of things now. And by the next Christmas, I guess I never really collected Playline dolls. Too much of a snob, honestly. Never even occurred to me to collect Playline dolls, except that I did encounter doll customizers who very largely, at that time, were customizing Monster High dolls, G1 Monster High dolls. And now those G1 Monster High dolls, whenever I would encounter them in a thrift store and I knew about this, I would buy them thinking that I would customize them sometime in the future, but I never really thought of them too much. There were a couple I had that were more or less complete that I kept because I just thought they were so cool. But then who really changed my mind about Playline dolls was Chanel Onyx, who I just thought was gorgeous. And then I kind of fell in love with the Rainbow High girls just at the time when they were stopping to make the original Rainbow High girls. And now the rebooted Rainbow High dolls, I think they're lovely, but I'm not too interested in them. But that year I bought up as much of the Rainbow High girls as I could because there were lots and lots of them that I thought were just so beautiful. And I had so much fun doing that I thought, well, my best friend was surprised that I collected those and not the Monster High dolls because, I mean, I kind of like creepy dolls. I like dolls that are a little bit creepy. There's no denying that. So she said, well, what do you see in these Rainbow High dolls? I mean, wouldn't Monster High dolls make a lot more sense? Now, coincidentally, I'm all new to this. I got no real understanding of Playline dolls or anything, except that I know that they're not going to make any more of the Rainbow High dolls that I like. So that's why I bought them all up. But little did I know that they weren't, already at that time, they weren't making G1 Rainbow High doll or G1 Monster High. They were making the G3 Monster High. So once I'd more or less gotten all the Rainbow High dolls that I could, and then I started turning my attention to Monster High, and I watched all the movies, and I watched all the TV shows, and I haven't read the books yet because I just haven't been able to get my hands on them. But I really, really, really liked Monster High, and so I thought, all right, I'll continue to collect dolls, but just Playline dolls because, you know, they're mass produced. So, I mean, even if they're beautiful, wonderful dolls and I really like them. And I think that they're absolutely valid as artworks, but not in the same way that artist dolls are. Like there really isn't any comparison. So I was happy with that arrangement. I was really happy with that arrangement. I joined the fan club and I thought, all right, I'll get the collector dolls are pretty darn pricey here in Canada with shipping and the exchange rate. And now with all the stuff that's going on, it's even more of a... And now Mattel's done all kinds of shady things. And Mattel has laid off a bunch of people. And everybody on the Mattel board of directors or the CEO, I think I was watching Ex Canadensis about the recent layoffs of designers, especially a particularly beloved Barbie designer. That the average Mattel employee makes about $36,000 a year. That'd be the average. There would be some top designers that would make more than that, but Ex Canadensis figures that not many of them even make $100,000. But the CEO of Mattel, who's a very thuggish-looking young man, makes $12 million a year, and all of the people on the board of directors make millions of dollars a year. They're laying off and they're probably going to start increasingly using AI in design work, and of course they are. They're a corporation. Corporations are evil. There's just no way around that. So, but Jennifer Long, this Jennifer Long right here, when I joined fan club, and she was the very first collector doll that I bought, the Fang Vote Jennifer, and my beloved Demon bought her for me as an early Valentine's Day gift. And then they lost her. First, there was back and forth with emails and they tell me, oh, don't you worry, she's on her way. And then there was another email like that, oh, maybe she wasn't on her way. And then, and I'm emailing back. And then I said, well, you know, I've been waiting. It's been 2 weeks since I last heard from you, and there's still no Jennifer has arrived. And so they just simply canceled the order and said, "Oh, sorry, it's lost, and that's that. So no Jennifer for me, because they can't replace her." And then so I was quite upset. I said, "Well, this doll means quite a lot to me because it was, I sort of Jennifer Long. Not only is she extremely beautiful, that's a huge part of it, but I." She made me decide to continue to be a doll collector, and that was kind of a big deal at the time because I was so unhappy. And Mattel didn't care anything about any of that, and of course they didn't. I was a fool to think they would, but I did try and explain that I didn't want my money back. I simply wanted the Jennifer doll that I had purchased in good faith because it meant a lot to me. And then when they responded to that email, they weren't even responding to my email when they started apologizing for my having received a damaged package, which I didn't receive any package at all. So they weren't even responding to my proper email. And I thought then and there, it's like, okay, fine. I won't have Jennifer Long, but no longer will I buy anything directly from Mattel. I won't buy any more collector dolls because, as I said, they're pricey, and I figured, okay, if new characters come out, fair game, on Amazon, or if I see them in Walmart, okay, I can have them. So when all of this was going on, Beetlejuice was dropping. I could have, I have a lot of time on my hands. I can be right there for these drops. But I didn't even watch. I didn't even look. I thought, nope, I'm not going to get them. But then they appeared. They appeared on Amazon. So fair game if they appear on Amazon. So I paid less to buy them from Amazon than I would have buying them directly from Fan Club anyway. But the long and short of it is I've broken up with Mattel. The romance has ended. And I don't want to collect. Oh, so when that happened, when I didn't have the Beetlejuice dolls. I decided not to. I made this epic decision. So where did Jennifer come from? Since I have her here, you may be wondering. Well, I was so upset about her not coming, and about I was so saddened by Mattel's scurrilous treatment of myself, and I guess I complained about it kind of a lot because my poor daughter went ahead and bought Jennifer from scalpers on eBay, I'm assuming. And I can't say I wish she hadn't done that because I am delighted to have this doll because she really did mean a lot to me. But that is the definitive end. I wouldn't buy dolls. I was very sorely tempted to buy this doll from scalpers, but scalpers are a whole other thing I really hate about this kind of doll collecting. So I'd made that decision. I'm going to break up with Mattel. I'm not going to buy collector dolls anymore. So to console myself, I bought a couple of other dolls. I love the troll movies, So I bought these two little trolls. Now, I could have gotten this one lots of times, but for the longest time, this one wasn't available. And I didn't really, they're sisters. Any of you, if you do watch the Trolls movie, would know all about that. These two are long-lost sisters. And I only wanted these two dolls if I could have both of them. But for a long time, this one wasn't available. So after the Jennifer debacle, I didn't think I'd be able to get Beetlejuice here. So now Damien had been ordered. These are all new dolls that you see here. These are all dolls that have come since I've decided not to collect dolls anymore. But Damien was ordered ages ago. Lyra Lucas, my sister bought for me ages ago. I've only just gotten them, but actually they were, these two I bought to console myself for not having this, Beetlejuice. So they come and I realize, well, goddamn, Mattel makes troll dolls too. Now, I don't know why, but somehow I don't buy very many troll dolls, so not new, certainly. And then, like I said, these just came out of the blue. They just appeared on on Amazon. They're on Amazon right now. You can buy them. So I did. The Living Dead dolls are also very expensive, and but they are beautiful, beautifully articulated. The clothes are wondrously made. They come with they are just so well made. And Mezco's just a smallish company, not like Mattel. So I'm not going to start collecting Living Dead dolls, but I will. You know, I don't know. I'm tempted to get this line of them. The what are they called? Return of the Living Dead dolls, and there's 2 that I'm missing so far from this line. I don't know whether I'll get them or not. We'll see. But what really snapped me out of it, I don't have. That'll be a big surprise. So that'll be a video for another day. So all right, I've made a video. It's kind of haphazard. I did talk about Jennifer Law. I can't be sorry that I have her. I am sorry that my daughter bought her from Scalpers. That was like, you know, because they're another really terrible. There are a lot of terrible things about collecting Playline dolls that I would never have dreamed of, you know. But even buying them from Scalpers, there's certainly, you know, the most expensive Playline doll is, even the collector versions of Playline dolls are much less expensive than art dolls or antique dolls. But it's an interesting community, the whole world. So that's it for our experimental video. I could see demons yawning, so we will say good night.